You're listening to a podcast appearing on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
This is the weekly Firecast, episode 14, interview with Anna Shawver of Apple Canyon Gourmet.
Strap yourselves in. It's time for the weekly Firecast. This is the podcast for all foodies, those who love food that is cooked over a fire or feels like fire in your mouth. If you love spice, smoke, sauce, and all things savory, this is the show for you. And now, here's your host, chili head and barbecuer, Scott Roberts.
Welcome, everybody, to the weekly Firecast. To steal a line from a tech podcast or two, this is the foodie podcast of indeterminate length. Sometimes it may be a half hour, 40 minutes. Sometimes it may be a little over an hour. I don't care. I just want to give the information on spicy foods and barbecue that I want to convey to everybody. And however long it takes, that's the way I'm going to make the podcast. But seriously, thanks for downloading and joining me on my little venture here. And hopefully, if you're a fan of hot sauces, chili peppers, if you like to grill and smoke meats outside, if you're a fan of seasoning and flavor and sauce, this is my specialty. This is what I try to push out in some form or another every week. And I'm glad that you joined me. And my guest for this episode is Anna Shawver of Apple Canyon Gourmet. If you're unfamiliar with Apple Canyon, it is an Albuquerque-based company. I'm sure if you've been out to the Fiery Foods and Barbecue Show out in Albuquerque every March, which is pretty much the biggest spicy food event of the year in the U.S., then you probably come across their booth. And what they have are several brands underneath the Apple Canyon Gourmet umbrella, which include Santa Fe Seasons, Comida Loca, Santa Fe Mixes, Holy Chipotle, and they have all kinds of good stuff. Salsas, margarita mixes, seasonings, sauces, jams and jellies, soup mixes, you name it. And I've been a big fan of them for a long time, especially their salsas. For a jarred salsa, it is hard to beat some of their just fantastically delicious gourmet varieties that they have. And if you've never tasted their flamin' pineapple salsa, go to the website right now, Apple Canyon Gourmet, and order you a few jars of this. This is a good, sweet, yet spicy salsa that you will just plow through a whole jar of in probably 36 hours. It's that good. Anyway, the interview I have with her is coming up in just a few minutes. And before we get to that, my review of the week is going to be on Bigfat's hot sauces. There is an entire line of 8 different sauces from the Chicago-based company called Bigfat's, and that is going to come up in a minute. I want to give a big shout out to the few of those who have retweeted and shared the link on Facebook and Twitter. And of course, I invite everyone to do that. Whenever I push something out on Twitter that mentions the weekly Firecast, if you retweet that, I will mention your name or your company's name in the very next episode. The same thing goes with Facebook. If you share the link for anything I post, either for myself, Scott Roberts, or the Scott Roberts Web Facebook page, share that link. I will also mention you or your company. Great way to get free advertising, people. Hint, hint. So, and a few of you who did it last week, on Twitter, there was Melissa Evans, and her Twitter handle is @Melishka, which is MELICHKA. And there's Jay Prince. His Twitter handle is @Prince_of_Q. And if you're into barbecue on Twitter, I'm sure you've seen his name on there before. On Facebook, my good friend, Chef Michael Lampros of Gunther's Gourmet. As a matter of fact, my interview with him was just in a couple of podcast episodes ago. And in episode 12, be sure to check that out. Anyway, Mike had shared a link on Facebook. And thanks to you guys for doing that. And before we get to the regular podcast segments, I wanted to mention that I'm recording this the week of Thanksgiving in 2012. By the time I push this podcast out, I think Black Friday will pretty much be history. But on my website at scottrobertsweb.com, I have posted many, many links of hot sauce and barbecue sauce manufacturers that are having specials this Black Friday weekend through Cyber Monday. Some are actually extending their sales through December, through Christmas. So if you do happen to be listening to this soon after this podcast is put up in the iTunes feed, jump on over to scottrobertsweb.com. Just look for the Black Friday Cyber Monday post and look for some really great gift ideas that have to do with the world of gourmet hot sauces and gourmet barbecue sauces. And in these, tough economic times, if you really want to help a brother out, buy some of these American-made products. These are mom and pop companies. They're working hard just like everyone else, and Some of them just have some outstanding products, some great sauces, seasonings, food enhancers. Take a look at that post and then go over to the website. Use the coupon codes, whatever is posted, whatever kind of specials that they have. There are all kinds of them that I can't mention without taking 10 minutes to do so. But if you want to help out some very worthy small companies and satisfy your own spicy cravings, if you're a chili head or you know of a chili head that's in your life, it's well worth it to do so. And again, that's at my website, scottrobertsweb.com. And now let's get to the weekly segments.
And now, the review of the week.
And my review topic this week is Bigfat's Hot Sauces. Now, they're a Chicago, Illinois-based company run by Jeremy and Kat Walsh, some very good people. And they got into my radar a couple of years ago. I had reviewed one of their 8 sauces, which happened to be their hottest sauce at the time. Now, I tried it, and I don't know what happened. I probably got a bad batch, or just something or other happened. I did not care for the sauce at all. I thought it was very bitter, very much on the high end of the flavor note scale. To me, I tasted a real tart vinegar taste, a cinnamon taste, and then I got the high heat end of some Buchalokia peppers. Really not much depth to it at all. But several months later, I met them at the Weekend of Fire. I believe it was 2010. And I tasted that same sauce, and oh my God, it was like a night and day difference. So in all fairness, I told them that I would review their entire line of sauces, even the one I originally gave a bad review to. So that is what I am doing right now. Now, Bigfat's Hot Sauce has 8 different sauces in their lineup. And what they do is their naming convention is based on what number of 8 the sauce is. So the number 1 sauce is called 108, meaning it's 1 of 8. Their number 2 sauce is called 208, and so on and so forth. Now, they do all have a distinct flavor profile. And right off the bat, even though that these sauces are very diverse, they're similar in a lot of ways. So I just kind of give you some forewarning. So if you're looking for some nice kick and twang to it, or if you're looking for a nice sweet sauce, these sauces are not going to deliver in those areas. For the most part, these are very savory, they're very fragrant and aromatic flavors. To me, I don't want to say that they're only good as additives, but in a lot of instances, they do need other flavors to mix in to get the full spectrum of flavors you want out of their food. Now I'm going to start at the very first hot sauce, 108, and go on up the line to 808. My first one, 108, is their Habanero Hot Sauce. Has an all-around good base flavor, and I tasted a lot of onions, garlic, and there's some nice heat from the habaneros. Now this is a medium consistency sauce, and as I mentioned just a few seconds ago, it has a good aromatic and fragrant kind of flavor. There's a lot of the high-end heat notes that will hit you. Now, it's not the greatest thing to eat by itself, but it's very good as an additive. I would say this is not so much an all-purpose table sauce, but there can be a variety of applications that you can use this for. It's really good on Mexican, for instance. But if you're looking for a replacement to put on eggs, I wouldn't say so. Got a little kick from the habaneros, and it's an all-around good sauce. And on a scale of 1 to 5, I would give this a 3. And next is a 208, the Bajan style. Now this one's a very thick sauce. It's rich, meaty, and mustardy with a lot of some potent onion flavor to it. Now depending on your flavor preferences, this may or may not be good in small amounts. I only liked it in relatively small amounts because to me, you put on too much and it was just way too overpowering for what it was. And since it kind of had a little bit of the, tropical mustardy flavor, I would say it's good on some white fish or maybe just anything that you would add mustard to, say like hot dogs and pretzels and things like that. I probably would have preferred a little bit more sweetness to this. And again, Bigfat's hot sauces are not that kind of sauce that will go all the way to the sweet end of things. It's really specialized on those high-end taste notes on your tongue. This is probably my least favorite sauce out of the bunch, so I would rate this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. 308 is their garlic ginger sauce. Now this condiment was thick, smooth, yet bursting with flavor. And to me, ginger goes very well with a lot of sweet flavors. They could have added just a little bit more sweetness to this, but mixed in with stuff as an additive, this was a fairly good tasting sauce. I think it's good with stir fry. And for the applications that I had to use a whole lot of it because I didn't think that there was enough kick heat-wise to be dominant enough. Now you think with garlic could be very strong. Ginger is very strong in its own way also. Now by itself it was very balanced, but I did have to use quite a bit of it for it to really pop out in my foods. All in all, I would say this is a good sauce, and I would give this a 3 out of 5. Now, 408 is their jerk-style sauce. And if you're unfamiliar with jerk seasonings or sauces, it's really hard to describe. It's not, to call it like a Jamaican barbecue would be highly off the mark, but it's just a really rich, complex, spicy, peppery kind of additive that you would give to foods like chicken or pork. Now, Bigfat's 408 jerk-style sauce is very thin. So thin, I almost had to think of it immediately as a marinade, and not something that you would cook with to add halfway through your cooking process or towards the end. But it has a terrific jerk flavor. And unlike some of the other jerk seasonings or sauces I've tried out there, this one is more herb-like. And I don't want to immediately think of something with more basil, but there was that kind of herb quality to it. But I really liked it for what it was. Not your typical style jerk seasoning at all. Very, very good. One of my favorites of the lineup, I would give this 4 out of 5 stars. 505 is their chipotle sauce. Consistency is medium to thick. I thought there was a nice punch from the chipotles, good overall smoky flavor without it being too dominant, and it had some good heat. Chipotles by themselves really aren't that hot on the heat scale. This stuff is not too rich, but very flavorful. Now, a lot of the chipotle sauces out there are maybe closer to the sweet, almost barbecue type flavors. This not so much. But I think because this is so much more of the savory side, you can actually get a little bit more mileage out of this because it went well with whatever kind of meat I had it with. Everything from beef to pork to chicken to even Mexican. It had that chameleon-like quality to it that I really liked. Now, it's not the best chipotle sauce I've ever put in my mouth, but this would be a very worthy addition to anyone's kitchen. And I would rate this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now, the sixth sauce in Bigfat's lineup is their 608, the pineapple habanero sauce. Now, pineapple habanero, mango habanero, papaya, peach. I love these kind of fruit-based hot sauces. And this, of course, is different. It's not very fruity in flavor in the way that it would be kind of sugary. I did get some of the pineapple-type taste coming through in my tongue, but this is not on the sweet side of things. There was some good habanero heat, but kind of like the chipotle, I think its advantage is that it works well in a lot of savory situations. And by that, I mean things that don't call for something that is overly sugary and fruity. It's a good balanced taste. It's definitely the least sweet pineapple habanero sauce I've ever had, but I give it a big thumbs up. This one I would rate 4 out of 5 stars. 708 is the 7-pot citrus sauce. Now this one is a solid winner. It is a hot punch that blends the citrusy taste of the 7-pot chili peppers and oranges. It's very tropical in style. I don't want to say so much that it's similar to the Bajan style that they have, the 208. But there is some of the exotic spice elements, even some mustard similarities to it. Now this one is very good with seafood, pork, mixed with butter to make a sweet, super hot chicken wing sauce. And it even goes well with, yes, vanilla ice cream. This is definitely one of the bright spots on the Bigfat's hot sauce lineup. I would give this 4 out of 5 stars. And last but not least is the 808, the original sauce that I gave a bad review to. Now, the second batch of this I tried had a lot of the same features that I kind of disliked the first time I reviewed this. But to me, this was a lot better tasting. Had a lot more balance to it. But it still does have some of those sweet, herby, kind of bitter elements to it. But this one is fantastic with Chinese food. But since it's a Naga Jolokia sauce, it is very, very hot and is definitely not for anyone who doesn't call themselves a chili head. Now, this better tasting version I had, I would give 3 out of 5 stars. Now, whenever anyone has an extensive hot sauce lineup, you're always going to find ones you don't care for as much as the others. Overall, I think these are some very worthy efforts by Jeremy and Kat Walsh. I think with a little bit of tweaking on a couple of these, they would have an all-star lineup. But for a fairly new sauce company to come out with something like these, I think they did fairly good overall. And there's a few I would highly recommend. So if you're interested in trying these out, just go to bigfatshotsauce.com. In summary, very good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break now. After these commercials will be my interview with Anna Shawver of Apple Canyon Gourmet.
Do you consider yourself to be a chilihead and want to find some hot new gear to wear?
Oh, yeah.
Look no further than chiliheadtees.com. If you're a heat freak and love hot sauce, chili peppers, or anything dealing with fiery and spicy foods, this is the place to get t-shirts to show off your obsession. Chilihead Tees is dedicated to giving you the hottest t-shirts, mouse pads, mugs, aprons, and more for the discriminating chilihead. Go to chiliheadtees.com. That's CHILEHEADSTEES.com.
I'm Bob Chrisman from the Galaxy Cast, reviewing each and every episode of The Clone Wars, sci-fi entertainment, and more on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
Creature feature fan? Like to appreciate all things with fangs and entertainment? So do I. Hi, I'm Eric Peters, a voiceover artist from the Voice Farm. Be sure to visit every week to see what's new and search for great entertainment with real bite. Check it all out at fangbangerpodcast.com.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli. Don't miss our interview with Michael the Grinder Mizrachi in our most recent episode of Two Guys Talking Poker.com.
Blood, a dark passenger. The binding ties of clear plastic. They're not just hallmarks of the hit Showtime television program, Dexter. They're bullet points talked about each week on the Dexter podcast from Two Guys Talking. Don't miss out on killer dialogue that leaves you with a bloodlust for more. It's the Two Guys Talking Dexter podcast for Dexter fans. Find out more now at twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2guystalking.com.
And we are back. And now here's an interview with one of my favorite manufacturers of salsas, sauces, seasonings, margarita mixes, soup mixes. It is Anna Shawver of Apple Canyon Gourmet. Good morning, Anna. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well for Monday.
Yeah. Hopefully it hasn't been too bad for you.
No, it's been busy weekend, but I'm ready to go on Monday morning.
Awesome. How did your company get your start initially?
Well, I kind of fell into it. You know, cooking is something that I've always loved to do. I've always enjoyed, chili products and, of course, the foods of my heritage, my cultural and heritage since I was a young girl. But didn't really begin to or realize how much until I moved away in 1984. I moved up to the Pacific Northwest and was in for a real culture shock when I realized that, green chili wasn't readily available up there. And sopapillas, people didn't even know what those were. So, I soon realized that, I was going to have to make trips home, often back to New Mexico in order to obtain foods that the chilies that I loved and really learn how to, I got to perfect these, making tortillas and things that I wanted and to be able to pass on to my children, the traditions. And so I did. I would come home, at least twice a year and, pack my boxes of chili and take it back to the Northwest. And, as I began, and my sister was up there as well, as we began to teach our children about our culture and heritage, we found that, the one holiday that everything kind of revolved around was Christmas. Mm-hmm. And so, we started a tamale day, and then we started a Southwest Christmas celebration at our house where we could, have our luminarias and all the things that we knew. So long story short, that grew because friends began to learn about the foods and want to attend. And so the year that my last year there, which was 1996, for 3 years prior to that, we were having to rent a Grange Hall in order to have our celebration because so many people wanted to come.
Wow.
And taste, our chili and tamales and stuff. So moving back to New Mexico, I went to work for a manufacturer of cotton beauty products, which has no connection to this at all, except that I realized there that I loved manufacturing. Rather than be at my sales desk, I would rather be in the back in production watching how everything came together. Mm-hmm. So I happened upon a guy that was a local salsa maker, and he said, well, hey, I'd like for you to start selling for me. So I, was doing some stuff for him, like on the side, and sold a couple of truckloads of his salsas into a large retailer on the East Coast. And then it became fun to me, and it really kind of, intrigued the creative side, plus the side that loves to cook and prepare these foods. He turned out to be not such a nice guy and didn't want to pay my commission, and, I had found out he he'd kind of screwed some other people. So I started brokering for some other smaller companies, and, my husband and I got married in 2000, and he said, what do you want to do, because the company, I had moved on from the manufacturing company to just doing the brokering, and of course, that wasn't paying the bills, so I went to work for a packaging manufacturer, and he went out of business. So, Greg said, I really like to start my own food company.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how much work was involved. So we did. We launched it in 2001 and started with a single salsa. And, made some mistakes because, I wasn't that familiar with branding and things like that. And so we had the salsa, and then I was approached by some of the people that I was representing who, they start their company and soon realize how, although they're good recipes, they didn't understand branding either, and find out it's a lot of work. And so we were able to pick up, and we've grown through acquisition. And that's how we ended up with the brands Santa Fe Mixes, Santa Fe Seasons. They were all brands that, had been on the market, but for one reason or another, the owners didn't want to continue. And so, we picked up really good recipes, really good products. And in our learning process, we have connected now with a good graphic designer who understands branding. So we've pulled all these hodgepodge of brands together, and Apple Canyon has kind of become an umbrella for those products, for those brands. So now that we have this collection, we're really a house of brands. We don't really market Apple Canyon Gourmet because that is although that's our company name, our brands is what we want to promote.
Yeah.
About a year and a half ago, we worked with the SBA to get a loan to expand our facility and begin doing all of our own processing. In the years that we didn't and we used co-packers, we realized that we didn't really have any control over the ingredients they used or quality of the product, that they made for us.
Mm-hmm.
Although cost was okay, it just didn't, we had so many complaints. And so we took over production about November of 2011, and our customers are thrilled. We've taken all of our recipes back to their kind of original state, and our customers are just really happy.
Awesome. Well, of course, you have, like you mentioned, a lot of brands underneath the Apple Canyon Gourmet umbrella. Now, what was the very first salsa that you had, and what was the brand name for it? Was it Apple Canyon back then?
No, it was Apple Canyon was our company name. Firehouse Salsa was our brand.
Okay.
But it wasn't a hot salsa, so the name really didn't justify it because people would look at the brand and go, oh my gosh, I bet that's hot. Mm-hmm. And, really we've always, although we love the heat, for us it's always been about flavor.
Yeah.
We have to have both. We're not a tongue scorcher. I mean, there's a lot of good novelty hot sauces out there that make a lot of money, and they're good products and great packaging. But, we're just a little bit different in that really our focus is to grow our line based on the flavor and consistency of the product.
And do you still have that original salsa in your lineup, or has it kind of been overshadowed by the Santa Fe season salsas?
Well, we found out through a customer that, I don't know how he found us, but he began ordering our salsa, and we soon realized we were in trademark infringement. There was a company on the East Coast that already owned Firehouse Salsa. That company, we actually have become really good friends. And we, sold him the artwork and the design and everything, and, we told him we would absolutely cease and desist using that name. The recipe we still own, and so we are going to introduce that again because, we get a lot of requests for a home-style salsa, if you will, something that, with the chili and the jalapeno and tomatoes. All of our other salsas are very specialty, very unique and different.
Definitely. And one of my very favorite salsas of all time is a flamin' pineapple salsa.
That's my favorite, and we have a lot of fans.
Yeah. Well, let's briefly kind of go through your different brands here. Now, with the Santa Fe Seasoned Salsas, you had mentioned you had acquired this company from someone else?
Yes.
And did they have all the recipes with them, or did you develop some more recipes elsewhere down the line?
They had such a wonderful portfolio of recipes. The company, Santa Fe Seasons, actually was marketed under the brand Coyote Cocina.
Okay. I remember that name.
And Coyote Cocina was, Mark Miller's creations. And they had a parting of the ways, and there was some kind of agreement that didn't happen, and so Santa Fe Seasons just continued to market the products under their own brand name. They were recruited to move their facility to Pueblo, Colorado, and that kind of really hurt them because they were trying to operate Santa Fe Seasons out of Pueblo, Colorado. And it was a challenge, so they wanted to move on. We acquired that brand in 2008. It has really been a good thing for us, because, like I said, we continue to work hard to keep the recipes as original as they were.
And what are your best sellers as far as the salsas are?
Well, in the Santa Fe Seasons line, it's a pretty extensive line with unique products. So there are spice blends. The 6 seasonings and the chili blend have been on the market a long, long time, and they have just quite a following. Under the hot sauce, our Howlin' hot sauce and our green chili hot sauce are the 2 top sellers. In the salsas, the flamin' pineapple and the roasted corn and bean and the fire roasted, all 3 of those are just phenomenal. They do very well. And then we have pepper jellies in that line as well. And our red and green chili jellies sell the most, are the best sellers out of all the jellies. And we also have a wonderful red chili cranberry sauce. And the oranges and the port wine and that just lend itself to a wonderful, finish for pork chops or grilled chicken, as well as great on a turkey sandwich.
Sounds really good. Making me hungry now. It's almost lunchtime here in St. Louis.
Okay.
And then you had the Holy Chipotle lineup, which I believe are mostly like culinary cooking sauces.
Yes, and then we have 2 dip mixes in that line.
2 dip mixes, okay.
That was, was a woman from Santa Fe, wonderful woman. She was a vegan and really just believed in organic, so she created the recipes. Then started having children and really wanted to focus on that. So picked up that brand. It's been a really good brand for us. I wish we'd have continued to just focus on that and introduce everything Chipotle, because it has been it's a popular chili and has not lost, I think, any of its popularity over the years. It's been good, and I love the products. I mean, the Chipotle barbecue sauce, people say you can eat it on ice cream. It's so good. And so we will continue to expand on that line. And shortly after that, we picked up Comida Loca, which is a dry soup line. And that was made famous in the Albuquerque airport. The owner owned a little deli there, and people would buy his green chili soup. And, flight attendants, pilots, and he had so many fans, he decided to sell the deli and start packaging the soup mixes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just got tired. He was a one-man band and thought he could operate like that, and, soon realized that, somebody really needed to be operating that equipment, and he needed to be growing the business. So as with many small manufacturers, small product owners, we picked that one up, and it's been a great product line for us. We just got into 52 Whole Foods stores on the East Coast, Upper East Coast. So, it's growing.
Oh, very nice. And then tell me a little bit about your Santa Fe mixes.
Santa Fe mixes, that we picked up in 2007. It was originally marketed under the brand Eat Me Foods. We, shortly before the owners sold the business to us, somebody had advised them that they should really change the name to something that was more acceptable and, like Santa Fe Mixes, and so they rebranded, and then we ended up with it and just decided to continue with the Santa Fe Mixes brand. It's been a good line for us, especially people looking for that all-natural, cocktail mix line, because the people mix, there's a lot of stuff in mixers. Many of them use high fructose corn syrup. Many of them use food dyes, artificial flavors, and we're really trying to, keep that line as clean as we can. A couple years ago, we were approached by a gentleman here in New Mexico that harvests New Mexico prickly pear juice. He became our, we were able to sign an agreement with him that we would buy everything he could produce. Needless to say, that has done very well. And, this cocktail mix line is really geared toward the home mixologist. People who want to serve something unique and different at home, but don't necessarily want to buy all the different ingredients that you need to have in order to make. I believe, just from personal experience and from things that people close to me have told me, fresh squeezed lime juice and, handcrafted cocktails are a great thing, but you just can't drink too many, because an unpasteurized, that citrus really is hard on your stomach.
I know it'd be hard on mine.
Yeah, it is. And so, our mix is gently pasteurized. We don't have all the citric acid that a lot of the, what we call artificial mixers use. And so people don't get that acid reflux or heartburn, that you would get after, a couple of margaritas. And if you're going to overdo it, your hangover isn't so bad. So we're very happy with the line. We have a national distributor that distributes for us, and they've approached us about creating some syrups and some additional flavors, like your average strawberry margarita, mango. But we just our line is so extensive. It's just development is probably the one thing I'm finding it hard to find time for.
Yeah. Well, kind of speaking of that, what is a typical day for you like?
Well, a typical day is I arrive around 7:30 or 8 o'clock and just go through the schedule. We have a production schedule that's usually full, a month and a half in advance. That's not just our products. That's we've, taken on some co-packing customers because we know it's a need out there. and because we're forced to. I mean, there's just people that don't want to go anywhere else because they know the quality of our products. So come in, go over the production schedule, make sure everybody, of course, the week before we've, made sure we have our ingredients and packaging, and make sure everybody gets to work. And then I'm pretty much pulled in a lot of different directions. We're still small. I mean, there's just 3 of us. We make all of the products. I still help out with production and taste every batch. So I don't have just one job. I mean, I have a sales hat. I have an accounting hat. I have sometimes I make deliveries, and mostly I'm, really dividing my time between production kitchen and just sending pricing out or responding to new customers or taking care of our current customers.
Yeah, it's a very similar story. Small businesses all around the country. You have to do it all.
Exactly. So, just in the last 4 years with the economy, the difficulty in the economy, we've had to really cut back and learn how to work lean and mean. With the new Food Modernization Safety Act that was signed into legislation a couple years ago, my workload is doubling. Mm-hmm. We're having to create, now we've had to bring in consultants to help us create systems and standard operating procedures, good manufacturing practices that will help us to deal with food allergens, make sure we're doing everything right in order to keep the consumer safe.
Oh, very good. Early on, you had mentioned about the whole idea of having your culinary roots there in the Southwest in New Mexico and, taking up to the Pacific Northwest. Do you find yourself trying to be maybe like an ambassador of the flavors and the styles of New Mexico?
Yes, and I've always believed that we should do that no matter where we live. I believe that wherever I go, I sell New Mexico, and so yes, I love the foods that, especially the indigenous foods that grow here, and really try hard to be a good ambassador and train my people to be as well, no matter where we go. And when we have people whenever we do trade shows or events here, we meet, just recently our Balloon Fiesta brings people from all over the world. We want to be very welcoming because this is our state and which we love, and foods, some of them are only grown here.
Of course, you being from New Mexico, I have to ask you, what is your favorite chili pepper to use when it comes to flavor and cooking and just overall versatility?
I have to say red. It just is very versatile. The red really is the green chili. It just turns red on the vine and has a little bit of a different taste. Mm-hmm. From what I know of, are the only ones taking the red off the vine and roasting it, and that makes our roasted red chili salsa. We have a customer who's a famous movie producer, and he buys most of that. We only introduce it, after harvest because it is so hard to find. So he usually buys up most of it, and we're happy to say that. we can't break the trust by telling you who he is, but it's kind of exciting when we get the calls. He likes to have the salsa placed in all of his properties, and so it's kind of exciting when we get that call once a year, and it's like, okay, time to ship again.
Definitely. Something you mentioned a while ago, something I was thinking, you had talked about Christmas time, being when, you had your celebrations of food and everything like that.
Yes.
And for those of you listening to this who don't know, with Christmas style, having both red and green chilies, since you had your food celebrations on Christmas, did you find people wanting the Christmas style just in a kind of the fun spirit of the day?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, whenever you go to restaurants, they ask you, would you like red, green, or Christmas? Mm-hmm. And, Christmas is just the combination of both the red and green. We have one of our jellies is called Christmas jelly, and it is made up of the red and green. So, it's a phrase that we use quite often here. And now, tourists are beginning to, when they come here and they start to learn about the foods, they become very familiar with what Christmas is.
So where do you see your company in another 5 years or 10 years or 20 years?
I finally realized what a good friend and mentor told me when I got started. She said, your company will tell you where it wants to grow. So, the best laid plans in the world are always changing. Our company and the plan for the company is changing. I'm going to start with the 20-year because that's the one that excites me the most. Mm-hmm. We are growing and hope to grow to the point where we have 5 regular employees that stay with us. And we know that that is going to be like retaining customer retention. Employee retention is important, and it's important for them to feel valued and like they're a part of the team. And so our plan and our hope and our goals and our desires are that those 5 employees will buy the company back from us. Mm-hmm. Because they have helped to grow it. We believe that in 10 years, we hope to be well on the way to that 20-year plan. In other words, we hope to have those 5 employees that are regular employees that are growing with us. In 5 years, we hope to have all of our systems in place. We believe that we will be running like a well-oiled machine. Our processes will be, second nature. Everybody will be trained and know what they have to do and when they have to do it. Within the next 5 years, we hope to double our revenue. I'm going to stay a little bit conservative, although the opportunities are just wonderful. I see nothing but possibility out there now that we are doing our own production.
And what are you think some of the mistakes that you've made along the way, some advice that you can give for up-and-coming fiery foods companies out there?
Well, I would say know your costs. That's the bottom line. It's the number one thing. Try to operate with, lean and mean from the get-go. In other words, don't buy things you don't need. Stay with grassroots marketing. Get the word out to the people that will buy your product. Start with your small circle, and that'll grow. I would say be careful about how you spend your dollars, especially advertising, because there's really no way to track it.
Mm-hmm.
Just operate lean and mean. Don't get into debt. Pay for your products as you buy them. And when you find a good co-packer, the best non-disclosure in the world won't work unless you trust that person. So first of all, trust your gut. You have a good guttometer and use it. Secondly, make sure you have copies of your recipes, that you're checking in on them occasionally, that you spec out the ingredients you want them to use, and know your costs up front so you know exactly how much of a markup they're putting on it. Mm-hmm. And we just believe in operating, we're very transparent that way. Most of our customers that have come to us know their costs, and they know what I put on top of it, and they know we both have to make money. Those that don't, I normally stay away from, because you got to have a good plan, and you got to know your costs, you got to know your numbers, and you got to know how you're going to get from point A to point B. And really, I'm looking to work with the people that already know that, so that they can stay in business, so that they're in business 10 years from now. And then there are those that don't, and if I happen to have time in my schedule, then I will consult with them and work with them on that, figuring out what their costs are, where they want to go. It's more the product development and co-packing are two separate things.
Oh, very good advice. Before we wrap this up, I want to ask you, is there anything that you want to plug or promote or mention about yourself?
Well, we haven't had as much time to, be in touch with our fiery friends like you and Buddha and some of the ones that have helped to give us important feedback on our products. We're always hopeful for that, people that will tell us how we're doing, because really it's the only way that we can kind of check the pulse of our company and our products. I hope we can find more time to be in touch in the future. Mm-hmm. And it is always nice when you guys reach out to me, because sometimes I get so busy that, it's hard to find the time to say hello.
Well, this is one opportunity right here, what we're doing. Thinking of some of the salsa manufacturers I wanted to talk to for the podcast. I mean, yours was near the top of the list. It's like, well, I have to talk with Anna.
Well, we sure
since I'm a big fan of your stuff.
And hey, that flaming pineapple is great on fish tacos. I'm using it a lot that way these days.
I rarely have fish tacos. I mean, I love them. I'll have to give that a try next time I have them.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well, Anna, I thank you very much for talking with me today.
Thank you, Scott. It was a pleasure, and I hope we can stay in touch more often.
Oh, absolutely.
Have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too. Thank you very much, Anna, for that great interview. And to find out more about her extensive product line, to find out all the brands that she has to offer, some very, very good ones, simply go to applecanyon.com. And if you're interested in the hot sauces that I reviewed for Bigfat hot sauces, you can go to bigfatshotsauce.com. And if you wanted to check out the hot sauces that I reviewed for Big Fat's Hot Sauce, simply go to bigfatshotsauce.com. And both of those links, just like any other links that I mentioned in the episode, I will put in the show notes. And those show notes can be found at one of two places. You can go to weeklyfirecast.com and simply go down to the episode number. In this case, this is episode 14. Look right underneath the blog entry, and you'll find the links there. Or you can go to the Podcast Network website at the numeral 2, guystalking.com/weeklyfirecast, and just go down to the appropriate episode. And while you're at either one of those sites, be sure to check out some of the previous episodes I've done. I've tried to cover everything from hot sauces to chili peppers to people in the barbecue world. Be sure to check out some of the really entertaining and informative episodes I've done. And if you're on a social media websites, you can like my page at facebook.com/ScottRobertsWeb. You can follow me at Twitter at twitter.com/ScottRoberts. I also have a YouTube channel, Pinterest page, Google+. Just do a search for Scott Roberts or Scott Roberts Web, either one, and I'm very easy to find. And to kind of mention again what I had brought up at the beginning of this episode, if you retweet my link to a weekly podcast tweet that I put out, or if you share a link on Facebook for anything involving a weekly Firecast, I will mention you and or your company here on the podcast. Very simple. If you're a struggling hot sauce company, can you think of an easier way to get your name out to a couple thousand different subscribers? I don't think there is for free. So be sure to keep track of what I'm doing on Twitter and Facebook and retweet me or share my link. Very simple, very easy to do. So that wraps up episode 14 of the Weekly Firecast. Thanks to everyone for listening, and remember, keep it burning.
This has been the Weekly Firecast. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast via iTunes or at the official website at scottrobertsweb.com/weeklyfirecast. The Weekly Firecast is part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. For more information on other great Two Guys Talking programming, you can go to twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2, guystalking.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, keep it burning.